Welcome, my friends, to this January 2024 edition of Connections. As always, we begin with a brief meditation. The meditation today is from the Gospel of St. Mark. And they were bringing children to him that he might touch them, and the disciples rebuked them. But when Jesus saw it, he was indignant and said to them, "Let the children come to me. Do not hinder them, for such belong to the kingdom of God. Truly I say to you, whoever does not receive the kingdom of God like a child shall not enter it." And he took them in his arms and blessed them, laying his hands upon them. Again, I thank you for joining us for this edition of Connections. The text that I read from St. Mark about Jesus' attitude toward children and the way in which we are an imitation of Jesus to welcome children, as well as having childlike humility in the world in which we live, is important and very important because, as many of you know, here in the United States, this is Catholic Schools Week. Many of you have been educated in Catholic schools. Many of you make the sacrifice of sending your children to Catholic schools. CNEWA, for its history, has been committed to children, to the education of children in healthy and safe environments. And so I think it is important for us to reflect. And in addition, today, the 31st of January, the church celebrates the feast of St. John Bosco. St. John Bosco was the founder, along with his dear friend, sister, and Saint Maria Mazzarella. They were both founders of the Salesian vision. St. John Bosco, the priests and brothers, and Sister Maria Mazzarella with her sisters have from the middle and the latter part of the 19th century made such a tremendous commitment in terms of the Salesian vision. There are today maybe some 15,000 Salesian men and women dedicated to the upbringing of children throughout the world. And that world also intersects with the world of CNEWA. CNEWA, through its history, particularly over the last 20 years, has been involved in the commitment to and the education of children in Salesian schools. We've done that in Lebanon. We've done that in Jerusalem, in Bethlehem, in Amman, in Egypt, Alexandria, Egypt. And so there is a commitment that CNEWA has in general to the bringing up of children, to the education of children, and in particular, our support, thanks to you, of the Salesian schools. And therefore, it might be good for us to reflect upon that, and our reflection will be further enhanced when I welcome my special guest in a few minutes, our CFO, Tresool Singh-Conway. But before we come and before I welcome Tresool Singh-Conway here to join me in this evening's presentation, I would just like to, again, as we always do, update and review with you some of the highlights since our last, the December edition of Connections. Perhaps some of you joined us in Bethlehem. We were there at the place where Jesus was born. I had the privilege of being there with the director of our office in Jerusalem and with the Franciscan pastor of that local community. As you can well imagine, the area around Bethlehem, Palestine, and even throughout most of Israel is right now an area that is a war-torn area. It is an area that we continue to pray for. We pray for the innocent Israelis who were killed on October 7th, and we pray for the innocent Palestinians who have been killed over the last several months. It is for us, and hopefully will remain, an intention of our prayers that we might see soon the release of all hostages and the working toward a just peace. That is a very much important prayer for us. Throughout the period, though, during the course of, since our last meeting in December, we've also had the opportunity, since I have these monthly Zoom meetings with the directors of our other offices, to hear of the concerns, of course, that have been shared from our office in Amman, Jordan, in Beirut. In Beirut, the concerns there are also concerns that reflect the war-like conditions that exist in southern Lebanon and in northern Israel. We ask for your prayers. But while we're asking for your prayers, we're also asking for your continuing donations, because CNEWA's work does not stop where there are wars. We are very concerned, and just yesterday I was with our CFO and with our director of programs in a Zoom conversation with the director of our programs in Ethiopia. There we learned of warlike conditions, we learned of drought, we learned of the lack of security in just travel on roads. And so throughout the CNEWA world, there in Ethiopia, the conditions in Asmara, and also the conditions in parts of India, where there is the persecution of Christians. These are all the areas where CNEWA is at work. And these are the areas where your prayer and your support and your being informed allow you to help us, for which we are always, always very grateful. If I could just make a reference to some upcoming events, and that is, in addition to the international travel, and when Tresool Singh-Conway comes on, we'll be able to share with you some of the travel that we have done with our director of programs, with our former director of development, which have been very important, but now also to increase domestic travel. The purpose of domestic travel is basically twofold. One, to promote the mission of CNEWA, and two, to be able to fundraise. And so we're trying, and I'm trying either by myself or with different teams among the executive staff to be able to speak about CNEWA and to ask for help. We need help because we need people to pray, because they know about the mission, and we need people like you to continue to donate. Coming up, with regard to the next at least couple of months, will be visits that are planned in February to the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, at the end of February and beginning of March, to the Diocese of St. Augustine in Florida and to the Diocese of Palm Beach. And there are other trips that will be coming up. And with each of our monthly gatherings here, I'll be able to update you on them and be able to talk about them. So there'll be that opportunity. If you, in the region where you are, as you're looking at this program tonight, if you know of a parish or of a society where perhaps during Lent, people want to know a little bit more about the mission. Maybe during Lent, they want to make CNEWA the object of their almsgiving. Please contact your local pastor. Contact whoever the leader of any society or group is, and then please write to me, Vaccari at CNEWA.org, so that we'd be able to arrange, with the permission of that pastor and or the permission of that local leader, we'd be able to arrange for a visit, to be able to inform people of this great story of the Catholic Church working in these very difficult situations and working to serve all people, regardless of faith, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of culture. We are there on the ground to help, to bring healing and hope to those places. I also will mention that Ash Wednesday is coming on the 14th of February, like we did last year. Again, the staff here, members of our staff here, will recite the very beautiful and the very famous poem of T.S. Eliot, Ash Wednesday. It is also going to be during the Lenten season, early on Wednesday, the 21st of February, where, and we are so grateful, there will be a concert for peace, a CNEWA concert for peace that will take place in St. Joseph by the Sea High School on Staten Island. I want to thank now, and I'll do it again the next time we're together, the principal of that high school, Father Michael Riley, along with the Archdiocesan Regional Superintendent, Jan Amato, for the work that they have done and are doing to put together this concert. In a few days' time, at the website of St. Joseph by the Sea and here at CNEWA, you'll be able to read a little more and perhaps be able to give us some support by being there or by taking out a sponsorship for this CNEWA Concert for Peace. The high school band, the high school choir, and all, or just about all the elementary schools on Staten Island will sing together in this CNEWA Concert for Peace. To those who are organizing it, CNEWA is very grateful for this. And so at this point, let me now turn to the highlight of this program, as has been of so many of previous programs, when I can welcome one of the members of the executive committee. And so I'd like to welcome now our CFO, Tresool Singh-Conway, who will join. I'd ask Tresool to offer to you, our viewers, a presentation and a sharing of her own story and of her invaluable work as CFO here at CNEWA, and then for us to engage in a conversation. So it is a great honor for me to welcome at this time Tresool Singh-Conway, the CFO of CNEWA and Pontifical Mission. Tresool Singh-Conway, in that capacity, oversees the financial operation in all its aspects and works with not only the executive committee here, but with all of our regional directors throughout the world and with our office now in Rome. Tresool, I want to thank you for taking the time to join me today and let us have a nice, good conversation in front of these folks in terms of all the great things that happens out of the CFO's office. Thank you, Tresool.
Thank you. Thank you for such a great introductions. I've been with the agency for a bit over 26 years right now. I started as a senior accountant and then a director of accounting and now the CFO of the agency. This is an agency that I'm passionate about. I'm very, very, very committed to the mission of the agency and what we do. My major responsibility is to make sure all of the financial activities of the agency is done accurately. I am also responsible for the consolidated budget of the agency. I report to Msgr Vaccari, of course, and to the Board of Trustees. My responsibility expanded all the way to the regional offices, to basically looking at program activities and also, making recommendations to steer the agency into the right directions. I've been grateful for the knowledge that I've gained along the way from my colleagues, from my co-workers, from the two prior CEO that were here. And from basically interacting with our regional directors, learning about the needs in their areas. And I had the opportunity to visit some of the programs and meeting some of the people that we serve. I just want to say everything we do here is extremely important. With the support of you, the donors, we're able to provide the resources to assist with the programs that we're doing. Because our work is so important and because of the resources you, our donors, are giving to us, I just want to say thank you for changing lives, for creating stability for people in the regions that we are working in. And thank you so much for those people, because I know they would want to extend that thanks to you. And as the CFO of the agency, as a partner with Msgr facilitating the mission, I want to say thank you and how grateful we are.
Tresool, thank you very much. This, I think, is very important in terms of this itself, the program, and that's one of the reasons why I've been very grateful to all of the executive team to come on the program, because it really shows says something about the transparency of the agency and the work that we all do together as an executive team. Could you maybe offer a few comments to our viewers with regard to that tremendous commitment that we make to both following the intention of the donor, and then also what are the mechanisms that are in place to assure transparency? Because you are so on top of that in terms of the way in which your diligence and how meticulous you are with regard to all those things, the financial management of the agency. I think it's important maybe if you would develop that a little bit. Thank you.
So yes, each gift is coded correctly according to the donor's intention. We have a team of staff that code the gifts into the system. I, as the CFO, review all of the income that is coming in, all of the gifts. We make sure that those gifts goes to the correct fund. There's a fund structure that tells us what is a restricted gift, what is a unrestricted gift. And based on that, I go ahead and implement the spending, the distribution. If the donor is saying, I want it for an institution, we go right ahead and transfer that gift to the institution. If the donor is giving us a gift to support some of our programs, we go ahead and put it into the specific program the donor is talking about and instructing us to do. And then we go ahead and distribute those payments directly to the institutions. The monies that we transferred goes directly to our bank accounts in the regional office. Our team in the regional office makes sure the institution gets the gift, documents the gift back to New York, and New York makes sure our auditors are provided with those documents so that they can validate that it went through a very transparent process and certify that this is part of the auditing practice.
That's very helpful, Tresool. So that really answers the questions that I asked with regard to both fidelity to the donor, making sure that we execute exactly what the donor wants, and then also transparency. And I think that's very important. I think any charitable agency wants to be able to offer in a very transparent way the methods that we use. So I thank you for that. Could I also ask you, with all the years that you have been here now, and with, as I've gotten to know you and with the assistance that I know that you have given to me, for which I'm very grateful, the budget process is an important process both in the New York office and the way in which we put it together with the regional offices. You each year are involved in putting together a consolidated budget.
Yes.
That's quite a demand. And maybe you'd have a comment or two about what goes into putting together a consolidated budget.
Yeah, the budget starts with the regional offices. Basically, the director of the office will tell us what the needs are, submit the needs to New York, and the program director will review those needs, and then recommend to us based on, what our priority and what we can fund.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those are challenging times because we have a very, very large request of funding and, for programs that are very much in need. I think the process that we have helps to narrow down what we can really respond to. And then you and I, Monsignor, we sit down and we have a discussion about it. What is responsible for the agency? And then we sit with the director of the regional office and, have their input on it. I think at the end of the process, we make sure that we are accounting for the needs of the areas that we're working in, what the director is recommending, what we can be responsible for as an agency, and then report it back to our board.
So, Tresool, I just wanted you spoke in terms of the communication that is exchanged with the regional directors. They identify particular needs. You're working, and we're working in communication, of course, with our director of programs.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to kind of find out what is going to be the budget in each of these offices based on, well, what would we use? Like, I guess there are humanitarian needs.
Yes.
What are the, maybe our viewers would
Yeah.
like to know, what are some of those other needs that we have in addition to humanitarian?
So we try to cover all of the areas in the office that the directors recommending to us. Their pastoral needs. Where we are working through the church, humanitarian needs. This is much an increasing need right now in most of our office. Their emergency needs. Right now we have where we're really supporting these food programs that we have. They're food programs where children are in need of nutrients. They're families that are having food shortages, and we're trying to provide that to them. We are basically working with children, educational programs, where I believe that's a good step for those children in the regions we work. We're providing them with skill sets to, especially the young ones, the youngsters who are moving away from kindergarten and going into schooling to learn technical skills so that they can have a brighter future. So we're supporting programs like of that sort.
And I think, Tresool, I think that you and I, and when we've traveled with our former director of development, when we've traveled with our director of programs, have had the opportunity to see in places like Beirut, or to see in places like Amman, or to see particularly in Jerusalem, and when we went to Bethlehem, in the hospital there of the creche. We've seen those opportunities where CNEWA is truly, thanks to our donors, making a service which is humanitarian, which is pastoral, which is very regional. But the one that must be the real challenge, and we seem to constantly be dealing with it, you've dealt with it for over now 2 decades here in your years, and that's the emergency.
Yes.
You can't budget emergencies.
Yeah, those are challenging times for us because right now we're trying to raise money for the annual budget, but every year we are really hit with so many emergencies. These emergencies because of war, because of conflicts in the region, internal conflicts, natural disaster, that really starts, the hunger programs where these people are in need of food, warm blankets and things of that sort. So yes, those are very challenging to fund. And yes, we're grateful to our donors who are, when we appealed to them, they responded. So, that is just a great, great support for us.
And then one of the areas, and you've taught me a lot about this, Tresool, when it comes to our investments, we have to be, again, and you could develop this a lot better than I can, we have to be faithful to the philosophy that underlies the investment. We have to be accountable not only to our donors, primarily to our donors, but then we have to be accountable, as you mentioned before, to the Board of Trustees.
Yes.
And of course, at least since I've been able to be connected with CNEWA, but it certainly existed before I got here, we have an investment advisory committee. So we have different levels of people who are professionals, who are interested, who want to know more about the mission, and they want to make sure that, as you said at the beginning, that the intention of the donor is respected and that we are accountable for how we are going about the disbursement of all funds.
Yeah. Our investments, we have support from the committees that we've created and the experts that sits on those committees. We have an endowment program. Of course, we have to manage those endowments according to the donor's wish. Our auditors make sure that we are in compliance with those donors' intention and also with the standard accounting rules. So yes, we do our best to make sure the investment is returning what the donor hoped that it will return, especially in a market that's so changeable with what's happening out there, the economy and everything else. Yeah, I think Monsignor, as you know, in all of the meetings that we have quarterly with our investment managers, we try to ask the right questions. We make sure the board is giving us the guidance. And we also make sure that when we're distributing monies based on what the donor intended to, we are doing it appropriately and every single year.
And I think it's important for our viewers to understand the critical role that the CFO plays in this agency because of these multiple dimensions here. And with that, and you've always been, very insistent on this, the way in which you find it so important also to do a financial analysis.
Yes. So yeah, I feel my role has grown because of the many years that I've been here, and learning and knowing the agency and its need has really empowered me to create tools to assist with strategic planning, assist with looking at the analysis of income, applying that analysis to our budgeting system. I think, that was extremely important for me to help to make recommendations to guide the agency, to help support what the donors want, and to make sure we rise to the expectation of the board.
And one of the things that you do, and you do it so well, but I don't even understand it, and that is you are dealing every day with so many different currencies. I mean, my head spins when I hear that we're dealing with exchange from one currency to another currency, and then that's got to be all wrapped into this consolidated budget. Could you comment on how do you, do you just sit there with a number 2 pencil and you've got to kind of figure out, okay, well, the currency here when it comes to euro is this, but the currency in US dollars and in the currency in birr and the currency in Lebanese, how do you do that?
Well, because we want to be accurate to our donors. We want to be accurate with our financial reports, especially we want to lower auditing costs. What we do, we invested in an accounting software that deals with multi-currency. So basically, we've structured that into the accounting software, and our counterparts in the regional office make sure that we are complying with the process of recording those transactions appropriately.
And I think that was very important. You brought that out, that in your going about the process of putting together the consolidated budget, you are also dealing with the way in which each of our offices has also undergone an audit.
Yes.
How many different agencies are auditing us?
Well, we have the accounting firm that audits each office, and then that is submitted to New York. And New York, we engage KPMG and they come in, they do a consolidated audit. There's a process where they are basically interacting with each one of the auditors in the region to make sure that all of the accounting information is valid, it's accurate, and it's certifiable on many levels. Yes, we have a report that is saying our audit is fair. It's according to the policy, the principles of accounting, but KPMG New York is basically going to be towards engaging and interacting with the auditors directly to make sure whatever questions they have, whatever other, validity they need, they are getting that from the auditors directly.
Okay, but I mean, it just again shows our audience the complexity and the enormity of the responsibility that you bear as the CFO. And for that, I think our viewers and certainly those who are involved here on a regular basis, certainly I speak for myself, but also our viewers here are really have a debt of gratitude towards you in terms of your commitment and your passion for the mission of CNEWA and Pontifical Mission. Could you also make a comment maybe just about the Annuity Program? Because that's something, has the Annuity Program, is that something that's relatively recent? What's a little bit of background of that?
Yeah, I think the Annuity Program has been in practice for about 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
We have sold contract at the time when it was beneficial to the agency. And as time goes by, there are changes in the environment, in the mortality rate. And so it became now a liability to the agency in itself. So we've done analysis to make sure we understand how much of the agency money is being used to subsidize a program like the annuity. And our donors are giving us money to basically do our program. So with the analysis that we have done, we decided it's best for us to just write out our contracts, maintain it, and then manage what our donors want us to do. As part of the practice of the annuity, the assets that we held always covers the obligation of the liabilities. Mm-hmm. And so right now we're just making sure that the asset is covering the obligation. I think that is a prudent move for us, mm-hmm. and not engaging in anything that would become a liability outside of the annuity.
Mm. Tresool, could you maybe share with our viewers from the experience that you've had, maybe in some of the travel that we've had the opportunity to do, some of the very powerful, some of the very dramatic experiences that have just have confirmed for you the important work of CNEWA and the hope that others will see that work and help us?
Yeah, as a CFO, I've always deal with the numbers and financials, financial transactions, and so on. I think the past few years we've been doing travels, to the office to get to know our staff members, to learn what they're doing, to understand the sort of conditions they're working in. And then I had opportunities to visit the programs and to see the institutions that we're supporting. Yeah, I think there were rewarding moments where you actually come into a room in one of the institutions that we're supporting, and you see kindergarten children being taught, and there's an excitement of, happiness in that room. And yes, that lifts your heart immensely. And then, you go to visit other institutions, and you were told there were, by the director of the institutions, babies are being left on the stairs of these institutions. And then you're moving into the, just checking the environment out, the places where these, these programs are being operated. And then you move to a nursery. You were told, a few minutes ago, babies were left in shopping bags. And then here you are in a nursery, and you're seeing the very babies that they were talking about. And so for me, that was, extremely emotional. It still is emotional for me every time, because that vision comes back to me. I had to leave the nursery because it was too much for me to really.
I remember,
embrace.
And especially, it should just that it's known to everyone, especially since that location where we were was in Bethlehem.
Yes.
So if it happened anywhere, it would be emotional. But when it happens and you're in Bethlehem, it's pretty powerful. It's pretty powerful.
Yes.
And then we've already seen, and so often you have to make adjustments with regard to the ways in which we have to give attention to issues that will come up. For example, the whole human trafficking of children. And that has also been a focus for CNEWA, and you've been so good in terms of making the necessary realignments with regard to budget so that we can address issues that we maybe weren't planning on addressing. Tresool, I thank you so much for the work that you have done for over 2 decades at CNEWA. Thank you so much for the work that you continue to do, at least in the short time that I've been here, especially with regard to your council. So thank you for that, and thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to be with Connections. So as I thank you, I very much thank you, I also want to spend the final seconds that I have thanking the great team that has once again brought together this edition of Connections. I thank you, Nick, and I'm hoping sometime to have the team up here at the desk. But Nick, thank you so much for your work in the production of this edition. Nelson, thank you so much for the work that you do and for the whiteboard you provide with the reminder for all of us, and of course to Tim, who's back there in his office, generating all of the great images that everybody saw of the places that we've been talking about, and of seeing us in particular in those sites, on site, I should say. So I thank everyone very much. I look forward to meeting you again for the February edition. I hope that as you prepare for Lent, you'll tune in on Ash Wednesday for the reading of the poem. And if you can, that you'll be at the CNEWA Concert for Peace at St. Joseph's High School by the Sea in Staten Island. Thank you all so much.